Hi guys, and welcome to the Stephen King Sematary Club. Chapter 4 is The Slow Mutants, and I think this is where it starts getting really scary and sad for Jake, because he follows Roland. He realizes that he really has no choice but to stay with Roland and to hope that Roland doesn't betray him, which we know is coming, and there's a story in this chapter that makes it even more apparent and more bittersweet. So Jake is not speaking to Roland because he's depressed. He is, imagine how you would feel if you knew you were going to your death and the person you were with was going to be the one to betray you. It's not a good combination. And poor Jake, he likes Roland. We know from certain times when he's looked at Roland, it's been a reverent gaze, and he seems to look up to him. He idolizes him a little bit. He wants to be like Roland. Roland is actually talking a lot more because he is nervously trying to fill the silence. And I don't know if you have people in your life like that, but I am one of those people who can just not say anything. And some people just really struggle with that, and they will talk and talk and talk just to fill that silence. So in the mountains, they find a river, and they're following the river. It's like complete darkness. It's like cave dark, and it is pitch black. You might think that you can hide in a closet and put a towel under the crack in the door, but you will never achieve that complete pitch black unless you're underground. And it is absolute. It's insane. So Roland and Jake are struggling. They're walking along this underground river. They end up coming to a train track of sorts, and there is a handcar on there, and they start using it. And it's like in the old cartoons. I think Jake even mentions that it's like an old cartoon type handcar. Roland does most of the heavy work, and Jake helps out. And so they're just going along on this train track, and they have no idea what's coming. They don't know if the track is going to end on them. They don't know what is around the next bend. They've lost track of their days. They have no idea because there's no light. They can't keep track of anything anymore. So they're just kind of guessing. They'll continue as far as they can, then they'll sleep, then they'll wake up and repeat it, and on, and they're kind of making assumptions about how many days they have been in there. We find out a lot in this chapter. Roland's mother, Gabrielle, she and Martin, the sorcerer guy who has turned into the Man in Black, they had some sort of affair, and Roland's father has become a cuckold. And Martin is really violent and demeaning, and he has this weird upper hand, whereas Gabrielle should have, due to her station, should have been the one with the upper hand. And Roland realizes what is going on with his mother and this man, and he doesn't lose it, because he snaps. He gets very methodical. He gets very, I'm going to challenge court now and become a man, do my rite of passage, even though it's several years too early for him to challenge the teacher, because once you challenge and if you fail, you get exiled. That's a big risk. So he is to meet court in this arena, and court tells him, choose your weapon, meet me here. You can cry off now if you want. I think you're too young for this. And we find out that Roland's dad was 2 years older than Roland when he made his challenge, and at that point he was the youngest. So Roland is really taking a big risk. So he goes to the little area where he keeps David, his hawk, and he talks to David. It's really sad because he talks to David as a friend, and he pets him, and he says, quote, "I think you die today," page 176. So he is going to sacrifice, or I guess in other ways, betray his friendship with David and use him against Court. So they meet, Court and Roland face off. Roland looses David on Court, and David just starts clawing. He gets his Court's eye gets gouged pretty bad, and Court starts beating his own face to get David off of him. David ends up a broken mess, and Roland picks him up and continues to push him on Court, and eventually the ear and the eye are pretty much gone, and Roland finishes Court off with a big nose break, and he really lets him have it. Court is really beat up, and he'll be in a coma for several days. Before he goes into his coma, he does tell Roland he thinks that he should wait, and he's referring to Martin because Roland is eagerly trying to get the guns that are now promised to him. He's not allowed to have guns until he defeats Court and becomes a gunslinger, and the implication is that he is going to take those guns that he has earned and go kill Martin. And Court is like, no, you should wait. Don't do anything rash. And then he passes out. And Cuthbert helps Roland bury David, the Hawk. So it's a pretty brutal fight, and I do feel really bad for David because he was just a loyal little hawk, and, you know, I have a soft spot for animals. So it was an epic battle, and really clever on Roland's part to use the hawk as his weapon. So after he tells Jake the story, quote, he had never told anyone about his coming of age before because he felt ambivalent about it. Of course, the hawk had been a perfectly acceptable weapon, yet it had been a trick too, and a betrayal, the first of many. And tell me, am I really preparing to throw this boy at the man in black? Page 187. So we do find out that Roland is getting really okay with the fact that he is going to sacrifice Jake the way he sacrificed David. Both friends, both pawns in his quest. Then we get the slow mutants, which are basically radioactive type zombies. They are gross and creepy, and Jake and Roland have to fight them off. It's a very Walking Dead type situation in this mountain. After they've passed through the slow mutants and dispatched of them, they get to a railroad trestle, which is really rotted and unsafe, unstable. It can't really support both of them, but they continue on. Jake ends up falling, and Roland, he sees the man in black. He wants to get to him. He steps over where Jake fell, doesn't reach down for Jake, keeps going, and he crosses that gap, and the trestle just goes. It falls. And before it does, Jake says, "Go then. There are other worlds than these." Page 205. Roland emerges in the daylight, and he follows the man in black kind of shamefacedly because he's betrayed Jake, and Jake is dead now, and they go off to have their talk. So I hope it was worth it for him. I doubt it, but, you know, that's his role in this. It's his fate. It's his path, and he really can't change it.